Okay, I'm about to explain to you exactly what bob shape you should stay away from, and more importantly, what you should do instead, depending on your specific face shape. Before we dive into the video, I want to say a huge thank you to Lifen for sponsoring this video. We'll talk a little bit more about why I'm a big fan of the Lifen Swift blow dryer in just a minute. There are 4 things that I need to say before we dive into this particular video. Now, the first thing is that rules are meant to be broken. Before you break them, you need to understand what these rules are. So this is not stuff that you absolutely have to live by, but it will give you a good insight as to why certain things function better with certain face shapes and why maybe you've had a bob in the past that you just didn't like and you didn't know why. And then from there, you can take these rules and break them as you see fit. Now, point 2 is that I'm specifically showing you not real human faces, but actual drawings or caricatures of faces, and this is on purpose. It's really easy to get kind of sidetracked about certain things about somebody's face. Maybe it's their eye color or their hair color or whatever, and kind of not notice really what's going on with the overall shape and how the hair shape is actually functioning with their face shape. So I kind of want to take everything out of the equation here and just allow you to focus on the face shape and what these particular nuances of the specific bob shapes that I'm putting on these face shapes are doing to their face shape. Number 3 is I'm not going through every single face shape. Basically what I'm doing is I'm kind of rounding up the face shapes into 5 different shapes that we're going to cover. And the reason for that is because one of the questions I see most often is, what is my face shape? And part of that question stems from the fact that there are so many different nuances to face shapes that it's overwhelming and confusing for people. So I want to simplify this, and after doing hair professionally since 1995 and working on thousands and thousands of clients, I've learned that most people, when they're trying to work with their face shape, are really kind of trying to fit within 5 basic molds or address kind of 5 basic thing. And then number 4 is at the very end of this video, I'm gonna kind of bring all of this together and I'm gonna share with you the most essential way for you to kind of address your face shape. And this is something that I think a lot of people don't talk about. With that, let's dive into the face shapes. The first face shape I'm gonna cover is round. Now, this is typically a scenario where you're trying to kind of offset some of the fullness in your face and you're actually trying to elongate it and draw a little bit more emphasis to bone structure. So what bob should you stay away from? You want to stay away from a bob length that lands directly at your chin and has a lot of volume through the sides. And you also want to stay away from very thick, dense, especially straight across bangs. The reason for this is because all of these things, length hitting your chin will add width, fullness on the sides will also add width, and full bangs, not being able to see your forehead, will also add more width to your cheeks. So when you do any of those things or all of them combined, you'll find that it adds a lot of fullness and more roundness to your face. So the best bob for you is actually a bob that has a length that lands a bit below the chin, has a little bit less fullness to the side, typically done through layering it, breaking up the front or breaking up the back with internal layers, and has a little bit more volume on the top. As far as bangs go, you can still wear bangs, and in some cases if that's what you're looking for, the key that you want to stay away from is just the really strong straight across bangs. So in your case, a bang that is a little bit more swept off of your face, kind of angled down, cutting over closer to your cheekbone, is going to be a lot more flattering and it's going to help to keep from actually closing you off too much. Just think the kind of name of the game here is that you want to see your forehead through your bangs, or at least some of your forehead, even with a little bit of thicker bang that's swept off. Okay, our next face shape is square. Now this is going to be kind of similar to a round because we're doing the same thing. Our focus is trying to actually elongate the face a little bit more because square faces have a tendency to be a little bit on the wider side. So again, we're trying to keep away from having a length that lands directly at your chin. We're trying to also watch having too much volume on the sides, specifically around the cheeks. And we want to make sure that we, again, don't wear a very strong bang because all of those things are going to not just enhance width, but also enhance a little bit more squareness in the face in general. If you are going to do a bang that is stronger, you want to make sure that the sides of the bang definitely connect into the front layering so that they're not so square. So what is the perfect bob for you? Well, in your case, again, we want to focus on a length that's a bit longer than the chin. Now, this is going to help to draw your face out and take away some of the squareness and fullness that you're seeing in your cheeks. We also want to focus on having a bit less volume around the cheeks. And this is not just to say that we want that to have less volume. We actually kind of want that to taper in a little bit if we can, because it'll help to offset some of the strength in your jaw. Now, another thing we want to pay attention to is having a little bit of layering in the front. This will also help to soften up some of your stronger facial features as well, and help to get a little bit more volume up towards the temple, because it'll lighten that front up a little bit and give you an opportunity to have not necessarily a bang, but if you do want bangs, a little bit of more of a swept off bang, because that, again, being able to see your forehead through your bangs is going to help to keep the length in your face and help draw out some of that square shape. To me, one of the best parts of a bob is that they're pretty quick to style. I'm also a huge fan of using a blow dryer that has enough air pressure to get your hair dry faster. And this is one of the reasons I'm a huge fan of the Leif and Swift. There is a lot of power in these dryers. And if you've been around this channel for a while, you've heard me talk about this blow dryer multiple times. And part of the reason that it functions so well is because of that air pressure. And I really wanted to show you kind of how this actually functions. So I have come up with a very scientific and extremely technical test here. We've got dog treats of different sizes and different weights. And then we're gonna turn these dryers on and blow those dryers in that direction towards these pups right here. Whichever blow dryer gets said treat into said pup's mouth fastest wins. Like I said, technical. Okay, in this corner we have the Leif and Swift, which I consider to be the Formula One of all blow dryers, with a motor spinning at 110,000 rounds per minute, blowing air at 22 meters per second. It has a digital temperature control that automatically adjusts the temperature 100 times a second to ensure it doesn't overheat and dries your hair more efficiently. In the other corner, we have the unnamed blow dryer, 1,875 watts, and claims to be a high-speed, efficient blow dryer, drying your hair in no time at all. So let's let the games begin. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that a little bit. The reason that I won is because this blow dryer does dry hair so efficiently. It is powerful, and don't skip this. It is a very important attribute of a blow dryer. Now, if you want to learn more about the Leif and Swift, there is a link in the description below where you can find out a bit more. I promise you will not be sorry. That said, let's dive into the next face shape, which is long or rectangular. If you've got a longer face, what do you want to stay away from? Well, the first thing is you don't want a bob that is sitting too much longer than your chin. And you want to make sure that you don't have too much volume on top and that it's got too little volume on the sides. All of these things are going to add more length to your face and ultimately not draw attention to any of the things that you want to draw attention to. Now, what about bangs? In a way, not having any bangs is also something that you kind of want to stay away from. What kind of bob will work best for you? In your situation, you want a bob that actually lands in about at the chin. This is going to help to add a little bit of fullness to your face, but also we want to have some volume up around the cheekbones. Now, not the cheeks. We're not just trying to bring the eye down and add fullness. We're trying to create more fullness in the face, but draw the eye up. Now, what about bangs? Bangs are a great idea for you because, again, it will help to pull some of that length out of your face. Now for me, these bangs, I think the swept off bang is kind of a solid move because, again, being able to see some forehead isn't necessarily a bad thing, and actually having those bangs break just about at the cheekbone does help to accentuate your cheekbones a little bit more. What if you do want to wear straight across bangs? Well, in your specific situation, you can. You do have a face shape that will actually handle a stronger bang, but I still would stay away from making it too square. A little bit of tie-in on the side, so it's a little bit more angled around the corners, goes a long way to taking some of the squareness or rectangularness out of your face. Now, the heart-shaped face, the reason that I'm pulling this in is because these are situations where people have a stronger jawline, have a bit more broadness through their cheekbones, but also many times have like a widow's peak, and that can be very kind of frustrating or confusing to people to figure out how to manage that. So what do you want to stay away from? In many cases, you're going to want to stay away from a bob that lands directly at your jaw or at your chin. More often than not, people with this face shape have a tendency to have that very defined jaw, And often that can be a little bit too strong and they want to soften that up a little bit. And we don't want too much fullness right around the cheeks because that's going to add more broadness to your cheekbones, and that can make the bottom of your face or around your jaw look a little bit too narrow. So we want to offset the broadness that you have in your cheekbones. Now, another thing that we want to think about is the bangs again. Well, one way that you're going to add more width to your cheekbones is if those bangs again are too strong or too straight across. Both of those things, much like the square face or the round face shapes, will have a tendency to add more fullness in that area. Now, the bob shape that would work really well for you is a long bob with some face framing layers to kind of soften up your overall feel and some layering in the back to give you a little bit more movement and texture. The added length will help to take emphasis off of your jaw and pull some of the fullness out of your cheeks. As far as bangs go, a soft side swept bang would work really well for you because, again, it takes some of the fullness out of the cheeks, but it doesn't hide your cheeks. So it still will accentuate the part of your cheeks that you want to accentuate. It just won't draw so much emphasis to width in your cheek area. Okay, now let's move on to the last face shape that we're going to talk about before we get into my specific process that I think is the most important way to deal with all this, and that is the oval face shape. I feel like I need to just throw this out here to begin with. I do not make these rules. I'm just relaying them to you. I am the messenger, so don't murder the messenger. More often than not, when we're trying to address face shapes, whether we like it or not, the goal ends up being that we're trying to make them have more of an oval shape. You've probably heard a lot of people say they can wear anything. And for the most part, that can be true. But with that said, it does not mean that people with an oval face shape should just not pay attention to what their shape or their overall style is doing to their face. This is a very important thing, so don't miss this. This takes me to our last tip. And the purpose of this is to say that if you've got an oval face shape, then great. You don't need to necessarily elongate it. You don't need to actually add width to it. But what you should be focused on is taking a look in the mirror and asking yourself, what it is about my face that I really like. And this is what you should all be doing with any face shape. For instance, I have a square face shape. Great. Now we know what you should stay away from. But also look at your face and say, well, no, what do I love about my face? I love my eyes. Okay, then great. Then we know that we do want bangs, right? We want some sort of bang, and we probably don't want to cover your eye too much because we want to make sure that we draw focus to it. Hey, my cheekbones, I love my cheekbones, or I want to bring out more of the cheekbones. Good, then we know where that bang needs to land, and we know that we want volume in certain areas. So keeping in mind that the length, the fullness around your cheeks specifically, and how you cut the bangs, those three things are going to be the primary factors in how the bob shape overall functions for your face shape. All of those things together is how you determine the best bob for you. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. And before we jump off this video, I do want to say a huge thank you again to Life, and definitely check out their Swift blow dryer. There is a link in the description below where you can find it. And like I said, it is a big fan favorite and it's a big favorite of mine. So check it out. You won't be disappointed. But otherwise, I appreciate you hanging out with me today. I hope this kind of helped you figure out what is the best shape for you. And I will see you next week. I am going to go play with, hi guys, these guys, because you saw them and they're, hey, Kev, come over here, buddy. Come on, there it is. And Ben, you wanna come over? He says bye. This little guy says bye. I'm Big Kev.